The United States doesn't move Marines and amphibious warships toward a conflict zone just for show. When these ships appear near a strategic choke point like the Strait of Hormuz, it usually means something very specific. Air power can destroy targets. Missiles can cripple infrastructure. Warships can dominate open water. For weeks, imagine a scenario where American forces are striking coastal military infrastructure from the air. Fighter jets launch precision strikes. Destroyers fire cruise missiles. Surveillance drones watch everything from above. On paper, that sounds like total dominance. But here's the catch. Coastal warfare isn't just about blowing things up. It's about removing threats that hide in terrain, inside tunnels, behind mountains, and among civilian infrastructure. And that kind of problem can't always be solved from 30,000 feet. The Strait of Hormuz creates one of the most complicated naval environments on Earth. At its narrowest point, it's only about 21 nautical miles wide. That's not a lot of room when you're talking about giant oil tankers, cargo ships, patrol vessels, and military fleets all moving through the same corridor. Massive commercial ships have limited maneuverability. They move slow. They can't just dodge attacks like a speedboat. And because of geography, many of these ships pass dangerously close to shorelines where hidden weapons could be positioned. This is exactly the kind of environment where smaller asymmetric threats become dangerous. Instead of trying to fight the U.S. Navy ship against ship, a regional military might rely on fast attack boats, drones, naval mines, mobile missile launchers, and coastal radar networks. It's a classic denial strategy. Don't fight the strongest force directly. Make the environment so dangerous that movement becomes risky. Think of it like this. A U.S. aircraft carrier is basically a floating city with a runway. It's built for deep ocean operations and global power projection. But you wouldn't drive a supercar through a muddy off-road trail. Same idea. These massive carriers aren't designed to operate right up against shallow, hostile coastlines filled with small, fast threats. That's not their lane. That's why amphibious assault ships exist. These ships are like the Swiss Army knife of naval warfare. They're not just mini aircraft carriers. They're floating expeditionary bases designed to support air operations, ground operations, and coastal missions all at once. They bring flexibility. And in modern warfare, flexibility is everything. An amphibious assault ship carries short takeoff stealth fighters capable of precision strikes and surveillance. It carries heavy transport aircraft that can move troops fast. It carries attack helicopters designed specifically for close combat support. And below deck, it carries armored vehicles, logistics equipment, and hundreds of Marines ready to move when things get real. But the real story isn't the hardware. It's what these forces actually do. Marines aren't there just to look tough. Their job is to remove the threats that ships and aircraft alone can't fully eliminate. That means securing islands, coastal positions, observation points, and launch sites that could threaten shipping. Before minesweepers can safely clear sea mines, someone has to make sure those slow, vulnerable ships won't get hit by missiles while they're working. Before commercial traffic can resume safely, someone has to make sure hidden radar and targeting systems are offline. Before naval forces can move freely, someone has to remove the eyes and ears of coastal defenses. That's where Marine Expeditionary Forces come into play. These units are built for rapid deployment. They train to arrive fast, secure objectives, and create safe operating zones. Sometimes that means helicopters inserting reconnaissance teams. Sometimes it means amphibious vehicles landing on remote shorelines. Sometimes it means securing small islands that control key shipping routes. Once these positions are secured, the entire tactical picture changes. Instead of one side controlling the coastline, control becomes contested. Marines can deploy their own radar systems, air defense weapons, and anti-ship capabilities. They basically flip the script. Now, instead of worrying about threats from shore, naval forces gain their own protective network closer to the danger zone. Another big reason amphibious ships matter is response speed. Aircraft can strike fast, but they can't stay forever. Ground troops can remain in position. They can inspect suspicious activity. They can secure infrastructure. They can respond to unexpected situations that require human decision-making. And here's something people sometimes overlook. Modern conflicts aren't just about destruction. They're about control. Airstrikes can destroy targets, but they can't control territory. If you want to guarantee a shipping lane stays open, someone has to physically make sure threats don't come back. That's boots-on-the-ground territory. Amphibious ships also bring something extremely valuable: unpredictability. Traditional landing operations used to require very specific beach conditions. That made movements somewhat predictable. But modern landing craft and hovercraft changed that equation completely. Hovercraft can travel over water, sand, mud, and rough shoreline terrain. That means forces aren't limited to obvious landing beaches. They can approach from unexpected angles. They can land where defenses are weakest. They can keep adversaries guessing. Speed matters too. These hovercrafts can move at highway speeds compared to traditional landing boats. That reduces exposure time and increases surprise. In military terms, surprise is a huge advantage. If defenders don't know exactly where you're coming from, they have to spread resources thin. And when heavy vehicles need to come ashore, airlift alone isn't always enough. Helicopters are amazing, but they can't carry everything. Tanks, engineering vehicles, and large supply loads often require surface delivery. Amphibious ships make that possible without needing a traditional port. These ships also operate over the horizon. That means they can stay dozens of miles offshore, reducing risk from coastal missile threats, while still projecting power inland through aircraft and landing craft. It's like having reach without overexposing yourself. Another factor that often gets overlooked is layered defense. Amphibious ships aren't defenseless targets. They operate with escorts and have their own defensive systems. Radar-guided interceptors, close-range defensive weapons, electronic countermeasures, and layered detection networks all exist to deal with incoming threats. Modern naval doctrine assumes threats from missiles, drones, and small attack boats. Because of that, these ships are built to defend themselves while operating as part of a larger naval group. No ship operates alone in a serious conflict environment. There's also a psychological factor. The presence of amphibious forces signals capability. It shows that operations aren't limited to long-distance strikes. It demonstrates the ability to escalate and to control operations if necessary. Sometimes, just having that capability visible can influence decision-making without a shot being fired. Another major role is flexibility. Amphibious-ready groups can respond to multiple types of missions. Combat operations, evacuation missions, maritime security, disaster response. They provide options. And military planners love options because situations change fast. You also have to consider logistics. Sustained operations require supply chains. Amphibious ships bring maintenance facilities, medical capabilities, fuel, spare parts, and command centers. They aren't just transport. They're operational hubs. Marines aboard these ships train constantly for rapid deployment cycles, planning, embarkation, rehearsal, movement, execution. It's a system designed for speed and coordination. When orders come, the goal is smooth execution without chaos. One of the biggest realities of modern warfare is integration. Air power, sea power, and ground forces all work together. Aircraft identify threats. Ships provide missile defense. Marines secure terrain. Drones provide surveillance. Everything connects. This combined arms approach is what makes amphibious forces valuable. They're not competing with aircraft carriers. They're complementing them. Carriers dominate the skies. Amphibious groups dominate the transition between sea and land. Think of carriers as heavyweight champions throwing long-range punches. Amphibious forces are the fighters closing distance and controlling the ring. Different roles, same team. There's also the issue of persistence. Aircraft, sorties end. Ships rotate, but ground presence provides continuity. If security must be maintained around critical infrastructure or maritime routes, Marines can establish temporary positions to ensure stability. Modern military thinking also emphasizes distributed operations. Instead of concentrating everything in one giant formation, forces can spread out into smaller, coordinated positions. Amphibious units support that concept by allowing deployment across multiple coastal points. Technology also plays a big role. Modern sensors, communications networks, and battlefield awareness tools allow these units to operate with far more information than in past decades. Real-time intelligence helps reduce surprises. Another important mission could involve securing commercial shipping if threats emerge. Boarding teams, reconnaissance elements, and aviation units can all contribute to maritime security. It's not always about major combat. Sometimes it's about presence and protection. And while people often focus on weapons, command and control is just as important. These ships carry advanced command centers capable of coordinating complex joint operations. Communication between air, sea, and land units happens in real time. The bottom line is simple. Military power isn't just about destruction. It's about influence, positioning, and capability. Amphibious forces exist because conflicts aren't fought in only one domain anymore. Everything overlaps. Airstrikes might open the door. Naval forces might secure the approach. But if control of terrain matters, someone has to step in physically. That's been true for centuries and still holds true today. Even in a world of drones and long-range weapons, geography still matters. Coastlines, islands, shipping lanes, terrain still shape strategy. And amphibious forces exist specifically to deal with those environments. In the end, these ships represent something bigger than just another warship class. They represent adaptability, the ability to move from sea control to land operations without needing permanent bases. That's a big deal strategically. Military planners don't build these capabilities for one specific situation. They build them because uncertainty exists. The more flexible your tools are, the better prepared you are for whatever comes next. And that's really the key takeaway. Aircraft carriers bring overwhelming air dominance. Destroyers bring missile defense and strike capability. Submarines bring stealth. Amphibious forces bring access. Access to terrain. Access to coastlines. Access to options. Because at the end of the day, no matter how advanced technology becomes, one truth still stands. If controlling an area matters, someone eventually has to show up and hold it. And that's exactly why amphibious ships and marines remain a critical part of modern military strategy.